Thank you. Thank you. I have a long and unpronounceable name. And for that reason, most of my friends just call me BTS. And if the only reason you came back after the break is because you thought a slightly popular Korean pop band would be here today, I can only apologize. Andrew Ng is one of the rock stars of the AI community. He has famously said, and he's not the only one who said this, that artificial intelligence is the new electricity. It's like electricity. It's going to infuse everything in the future. Everything where we can extract data, everything that can be described by statistics will be powered by AI in the future. And there are some signs that he could be right. This slide, this graph made by McKinsey, illustrates different companies or similar companies in the same sectors and divide them up into companies that have not started using AI yet, companies that are just testing it out, and companies that have implemented AI as widely as they possibly can in their industry or in their company. And the companies that have really deployed AI enjoy significant better profit margins than those who are just dabbling or haven't even started. So there are some signs that AI is delivering. When we say AI, AI is a big topic, and we have had AI since at least 1967 or even before that. The term itself was coined in 1967. The part of this whole field that's delivering today is the part called machine learning. And in machine learning, you don't try to explicitly program the computer to solve problems. You show it examples of relationships between inputs and outputs, such as images of cats. Cats were the first objects we were able to identify using machines. And that's because there are more images of cats than anything else on the internet. So with machine learning, we use examples, we use data to train models, which are then able to take, for instance, pictures it has never seen before and classify them correctly. And that's starting to deliver in specific vertical areas, such as image recognition, voice recognition, diagnosis of cancer from X-rays, self-driving cars, and so forth. So that's working. That's working. We also see that as the volumes of data and the quality of data increases, the performance of these algorithms, the performance of these systems continues to improve. Google has famously said that it starts at 1 billion examples. You can do a lot with AI without as much as 1 billion examples, but you need typically a lot of data, and that's because the signals are very often very weak in your data. So deep learning, modern AI, neural networks that mimic the way our brain works, they continue to improve in performance as the amounts of data increase. And this is where we are getting close to 5G. But before we dig into that, there is one problem. If you want to compete on AI, if you want to compete on services that are powered by artificial intelligence, such as if you want to build a translator, such as Google Translate. Let's say I use Google Translate, type in a sentence, and then get the translation. Sometimes this translation will be obviously wrong, and I can propose a correction. I can type in the correct translation. If I do that, I give the AI that's powering Google Translate a data point. I'm telling it that this sentence in one language corresponds to this sentence in a different language. And Google Translate becomes a little bit smarter than it was before I did this. So the next time I come back to Google Translate, it's a little bit better than it was the last time. It has learned. When thousands of people do this every day, Google Translate gets better and better pretty quickly. And the service that is already best gets the most attention, gets the most data, and continues to improve faster than any competitor. Right? So catching up with a service that is powered by data, if you are at a lower level, is almost, or if not just almost, it is impossible. That's what we mean by data monopolies. I gave this presentation to a room with some executives from Microsoft a while back, and after my talk, and I was a bit provocative in the talk, I said that, well, for this reason, Bing, which is Microsoft's search service, will never be able to compete with Google search. And one of them came up to me afterwards and said, yeah, well, you know, we know that. Still, they have around a 30% market share in the US, Microsoft, and that's because it's bundled with Microsoft for the desktop. So, if you want to compete into the future with software and solutions that are powered by AI, you need to look for areas where the data is just starting to flow, where these monopolies have not been handed out, or where they de facto cannot be built because you're using your own data. And one of these areas, and this is a very big area, is the Internet of Things. This is just starting, though we have a lot of applications already. It is really just starting. It is open for everybody, all countries, all industries, to play in this space. And the Internet of Things is going to be a core part of the automation of our future, the automation of factories, the automation of processes. And automation, ladies and gentlemen, is what creates wealth. It is because we have automated manual work. It's because we have automated, for instance, if you go back 40 years, we had lots of people who were not really well paid, who sat and wrote down ledgers by hand, right? And if you made a mistake in one column, in one number, you had to rewrite manually, maybe tens or hundreds of pages of paper, recalculate your whole ledger. Today, we have spreadsheets, which do this for us automatically. We have automated away that very laborious, badly paid process. So automation is nothing new. When I lived in Pakistan 15 years ago, I could sit and watch people building a new office block next to the one I was working in. And they were excavating the foundation of that office block using picks and shovels and donkeys to carry the dirt away. This one is in Pakistan 15 years ago. The guys, mostly guys, who were digging that foundation were paid something like 250 ringgit a month. That was their salary level. In a country such as Malaysia or Singapore or Norway, you would use a big machine to dig that foundation. And the person operating that machine would be paid maybe 10,000 ringgit a month, at least in Norway. Right? 250 ringgit, 10,000 ringgit. And the difference is automation. So, when I talk to people internally in Telenor and talk about salaries and stuff, I say, you know, next time you talk to HR about your salary, you should ask for more AI in the company. The more automation you have in the company, the more valuable you are as an employee, and the higher salary you can command. So we should go for as much automation as we can. And this takes us to why the Internet of Things is exploding. The Internet of Things is exploding for two reasons, or will explode for two reasons. One is that the power needs of these sensors is continuing to drop faster than Moore's law. The sensors are becoming cheaper. The batteries will last for maybe 5 years, 10 years, maybe even longer. So you can install them in machinery and forget about them. And they will report about the state of your brakes or where your dog is or whatever it is to some software in the cloud. And the second reason that this is going to explode is 5G. With 5G, we will be able to go from between 1,000 and 10,000 sensors connected to the internet per square kilometer to up to 1 million sensors per square kilometer. And when you can connect 1 million sensors in a 1,000 by 1,000 meter grid, and those sensors are dirt cheap, you will connect everything and anything it makes sense to connect to the internet. And these sensors will report, they will give you data, and that data can be used to train AI. And it's the AI that will help us automate. So that's the promise of 5G in my mind. That's the biggest promise it has, and why the future is exciting. So we're going from a reality where we are fully instrumented. I mean, you, all of us, at least I, we're telling somebody where we are at any point in time, where we are going, what we like, who our friends are, what we had for dinner yesterday. I actually took a picture of my dinner yesterday and posted it on Facebook. So now Facebook knows what I had for dinner yesterday. Of course, they obviously need to know that, so that's important. To a reality where everything is connected to the internet. Everything it makes sense to connect will be connected to the internet. So that's our future. Let me give you a couple of examples of what this can look like. I'll talk about 3 things very briefly. One of the issues or the problems we have in Norway is that during wintertime, typically, many of the city centers can be clogged with smog and particulates from the road and so forth. We have snow and ice in Norway, so the tires of cars typically have steel studs in them to not slip on the ice. And since a lot of the time roads are actually not covered in ice, those studs tend to tear up the asphalt, and that asphalt dust goes into the air and is really bad for you. So from time to time, air pollution is a big problem in cities in Norway. What we have done together with the university in Trondheim is to come up with an Iot value chain where we put sensors that cost, I think they cost 100 ringgit on taxis and buses, which report on different parameters in the air. Connect that data to an AI, and ultimately report from that AI into an app you as an individual can have in your pocket, which tells you not just what the air quality is right now in your area, but can also predict what the air quality is going to be in a few hours or the next day. I'm not going to try to explain this graph, but what it shows is that this model that we have built is a better predictor of air quality than the official models that the government has been operating with up till now. And this is the government in Norway. I'm sure the government in Malaysia is much better at this than the government in Norway. But it illustrates that cheap sensors in large volumes and AI can help give us this predictive power. So that's one example. Another example, and we're in the Telenor Group are involved with this project as well. A company called Yara, they are a big producer of fertilizer. They have a factory in a pretty dense urban area in southern Norway. And they're building the world's first fully autonomous electric cargo ship. And this ship will replace 40,000 truckloads of containers every year. And this ship is supposed to go on its own from port to port. The cranes in the port are supposed to operate autonomously and load and unload this ship. But they say, Yara say, that we cannot do this without 5G. We need 5G in the port, and we need 5G to the ship. And the reason is that they need to be prepared for the time when the AI fails. I was going to use a more explicit expression than fail, but I won't do that in this polite society. At some point, the AI or the ship will encounter a situation it has not been trained for. If it has not been trained for it, hasn't seen the data before, or similar data, it won't know what to do. And a human operator has to take over. So for safety reasons, autonomous ships, and I think for a long time, autonomous cars or buses or trucks will need a high-speed connection back to some sort of control center where they can see everything the ship sees and where they can control it in real time with low latency, low delay. So they will not launch this ship or this port without 5G. So that's the second example. And my third and last example, and the one that I personally think is perhaps the most exciting, is this. This is a diagnostic pill that you can swallow, which follows your intestines, takes pictures, and reports back. They exist already. The University Hospital in Oslo and Telenor are still working to improve this using 5G. And the reason that they think they need, or they decided that they need 5G to really make this work is because you want these pills to be as small as possible. And the size of the pill is really a function of how many batteries you put into it. Right? So you want a pill that's small, with a small battery, so that it's not too big for you. In order to have a small battery, the power consumption of that pill has to be pretty minimal. And the most expensive part, or the part of the pill that takes the most power, is the camera. So taking pictures, because you need to use a flash. It's pretty dark in there, so you need to use a flash, and that consumes a lot of power, right? So you don't want to take 64 images per second, because then it'll only get to, well, about here, and then it'll stop working. It has to go all the way through to make any sense. So what do you want to be able to do is to speed up and slow down the camera in real time. So what they're trying to build is a pill that's connected using 5G to an AI in the cloud. And this would be some sort of edge cloud solution that we heard from Rakuten. An AI in the cloud that could take an image and decide in real time whether there's something interesting on that image. And then tell the camera to speed up before it passes the area of interest. Right? So you can run the camera with low speed, then speed it up if necessary, and then go back to low speed. So, by combining AI, this camera, which is definitely an Internet of Things, and 5G, you can build a solution that solves a problem and improves our lives, basically. So we believe in the Telenor Group that we need to look at the combination of 5G, the Internet of Things, and AI, build solutions that combine all these technologies to really transform the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's give it up one more time for Mr. Bjørn Taale Sandberg.